You know that moment when you're stuck in traffic and suddenly you realize you've been holding your breath? Your shoulders are tight, your jaw is clenched, and you're basically suffocating yourself without knowing it. Here's what happens. We've forgotten how to breathe like we did as babies. Watch a sleeping child. Their belly rises and falls naturally. But somewhere along the way, stress taught us to breathe from our chest, cutting ourselves off from our own power source. Think about it. What's the first thing you do when you're angry? You hold your breath. When you're anxious, shallow breathing. When you're sad, you literally sigh the life out of yourself. But what if I told you that changing how you breathe could change everything? Ancient monks discovered something we're just rediscovering. Your breath is the remote control to your nervous system. Every time you breathe deeply into your belly, you're literally telling your brain, I'm safe. I'm in control. Your heart rate slows, your mind clears, and suddenly that traffic jam becomes your meditation moment. The whole point is to reclaim the energy you've been giving away every single day. Ready to stop being a victim of your own breathing? Chapter 1. What is dragon's breath? You know that feeling when you're scrolling through your phone at 2 a.m. and your chest feels tight, like there's not enough air in the room? Or when you're presenting at work and suddenly your breathing becomes this awkward, conscious thing you can't control? Here's something your doctor probably never told you. Most of us are chronically underbreathing. We're walking around in a constant state of mild suffocation, and we don't even know it. Picture this. You're born knowing exactly how to breathe. No one teaches a baby to expand their belly, to let their diaphragm drop naturally. But by the time we're adults, we've trained ourselves to breathe like we're constantly bracing for impact. Now, thousands of years ago, Taoist masters called this rediscovering your natural breath dragon's breath. Not because it's mystical, but because it awakens something fierce and powerful within you that's been sleeping. Think about when you laugh really hard, that deep belly laugh that makes your whole torso shake. That's your diaphragm doing what it's designed to do. Or when you cry deeply, and those big, shuddering breaths just happen naturally. Your body knows how to breathe for healing. But here's where it gets interesting. Every time you breathe shallow, you're literally telling your nervous system there's danger. Your brain thinks, if they're not breathing deeply, something must be wrong. So it keeps you in a low-level state of alert. What if I told you there's a specific way to breathe that flips this switch completely? When you breathe deep into your belly, your diaphragm drops down and actually massages your internal organs. It's like giving yourself an internal hug. But here's what no one talks about. This isn't just about the breath. It's about reclaiming your birthright to feel calm in your own body. Most people live like strangers in their own skin, disconnected from the very thing that keeps them alive. The ancient Taoists understood something we're just remembering. Your breath is the bridge between your conscious and unconscious mind. It's the one thing you do, both automatically and voluntarily. That makes it the perfect tool for transformation. When you master this kind of breathing, you're not just getting more oxygen, you're accessing a state of being that most people only experience by accident, those rare moments when you feel completely present, completely yourself. So here's my question for you. What would change in your life if you could access that feeling whenever you wanted? If stress couldn't hijack your breathing anymore? If you had a secret weapon that no external circumstance could take away from you? Because that's exactly what we're talking about here. This isn't about becoming someone else. It's about returning to who you were before the world taught you to hold your breath. Chapter 2: The Power of the Dantian. Have you ever noticed how, when you're really nervous, you feel it in your gut? Not in your head, not in your chest, but deep in your belly. That queasy, fluttery feeling that tells you something important is happening. Here's something fascinating. Every language has expressions about this: gut feeling, butterflies in your stomach, fire in your belly. We all know this place exists, but we've forgotten it's actually your body's command center. Let me ask you something. When was the last time you put your hand on your lower belly and actually felt what was going on there? Most people live their entire lives, from the neck up, completely disconnected from this incredible powerhouse 3 fingers below their navel. The ancient Taoists called this spot the Dantian, literally meaning energy field. But think of it more like your body's battery pack. You know how your phone has that little battery icon that shows how much juice you have left? Your Dantian is exactly that, except most of us are walking around at about 20% charge, wondering why we feel exhausted all the time. Here's what's really wild. Modern science is finally catching up to what these ancient masters knew. Your gut contains more neurons than your spinal cord. It produces 95% of your body's serotonin. It's literally your second brain. And it's been trying to talk to you your whole life. But we've trained ourselves to ignore it. We sit hunched over desks, breathing shallow, stressed breaths that barely reach our chest. We drink coffee to feel energized instead of learning to generate energy from within. We pop pills for anxiety when the real solution has been sitting quietly in our belly this whole time. Think about babies again. When they cry, their whole belly engages. When they laugh, it comes from deep inside. They haven't learned to disconnect from their power source yet. Now, what if I told you that every time you breathe deeply into your lower belly, you're literally charging this internal battery? Not metaphorically, physically. You're increasing blood flow, massaging your organs, and activating your parasympathetic nervous system. The Taoists had a practice where they'd visualize a warm, glowing pearl of light in their dantian. They'd breathe into it, feed it, and watch it grow stronger. Over time, this wasn't just imagination. They could actually feel warmth, vibration, and energy radiating from that spot. But here's the part that will blow your mind. That feeling of warmth and energy isn't mystical. It's your body responding to proper breathing and focused attention. It's your nervous system finally relaxing. It's your core muscles engaging properly for the first time in years. Most people spend their lives searching for energy outside themselves, in relationships, achievements, substances, experiences. But what if everything you need is already there, waiting patiently 3 fingers below your navel? Chapter 3: Activating the Energy. You know that moment when you're trying to fall asleep and your mind just won't stop spinning? You're lying there telling yourself to relax, but the harder you try, the more wound up you get. That's because you're trying to control your mind with your mind, like trying to calm a storm by shouting at the clouds. Here's what changed everything for me, and it's going to sound almost too simple. What if instead of fighting your thoughts, you gave them somewhere to go? Think about this. When you're really focused on something you love, Where does that focus come from? Not from your head. It comes from deeper. Athletes call it the zone. Artists call it flow. But it's all the same thing. It's when your whole being aligns around a single point of attention. Now, here's where it gets interesting. The ancient Taoists discovered that you can create this state on command, not by forcing it, but by giving your scattered energy a home base. Imagine you're holding a snow globe. When it's shaken up, everything's chaotic, swirling everywhere. But when you hold it still, everything settles around the center. Your energy works the same way. So here's what we're going to do together. And I want you to think of this as a conversation between you and your own body. First, put one hand on your chest, one on your lower belly. Take a normal breath and notice which hand moves more. Most people, the chest hand moves. That's your stress response breathing. That's your I'm late for everything breath. But we're going to flip the switch. Now, breathe like you're inflating a balloon in your lower belly. Let that bottom hand push out. But here's the key. As you breathe in, imagine you're breathing in liquid gold. Not air, but warm, thick, golden light that settles in your lower belly like honey in a jar. And here's the part nobody talks about. At the end of each breath in, gently squeeze your pelvic floor muscles. You know, the ones you use to stop urination midstream. Just a gentle squeeze like you're sealing a jar. This isn't weird mystical stuff. You're literally creating a container for the energy you're building. Think of it like this. If you're filling up a balloon, you have to pinch the opening or all the air escapes. Same thing here. You're creating a gentle seal so the energy accumulates instead of just leaking out. Now, after you've built up this warm, golden feeling in your belly, and trust me, you will feel something. Picture it slowly rising up your spine like warm honey traveling up a straw. Then, as you breathe out, let it flow back down the front of your body like a gentle waterfall. You're creating what I call an internal circulation system, like a river flowing through your body instead of stagnant ponds of tension and stress. The magic isn't in the technique itself. It's in finally giving your scattered energy a job to do instead of just bouncing around creating anxiety and restlessness. Chapter 4: Principles of Practice. Let me tell you about the biggest mistake I see people make when they start this practice. They turn it into another thing they have to be perfect at, another way to judge themselves, another item on their endless self-improvement checklist. I get it. We live in a world that tells us more is better, faster is stronger, and if you're not sweating, you're not trying hard enough. But this is the complete opposite of everything our culture has taught us about achievement. Think about how a seed grows. Does it strain and force itself to become a tree? Does it set ambitious goals and beat itself up for not being a mighty oak by Tuesday? Of course not. It just grows naturally, in its own perfect timing. Here's what I wish someone had told me when I started. Your breath is not your employee. It's not there to perform for you or prove how spiritual you are. It's more like a scared animal. The harder you grab it, the more it wants to run away. So here's how we're going to approach this differently. Instead of doing this technique, I want you to think of it as befriending your own breath. You know how when you meet a shy dog, you don't force it to like you? You just sit quietly, maybe extend your hand, and let it come to you. Your breathing works the same way. Start with just 4 seconds in through your nose, letting your belly gently expand, not forcing it out like you're showing off at the gym, just letting it naturally inflate like a balloon filling with warm air. Then 6 to 8 seconds out. And here's the secret that changes everything. Make your exhale longer than your inhale. This isn't about lung capacity or breathing technique. It's actually hacking your nervous system. When you exhale longer, you're literally telling your brain, we're safe. We can relax now. But here's where most people mess up. They start feeling something. Maybe a little warmth in their belly, maybe a sense of calm they haven't felt in months. And immediately their mind jumps in with, am I doing this right? Should I feel more? Why isn't this happening faster? Listen to me carefully. The moment you turn this into a performance, you've lost the magic. This isn't about becoming some enlightened breathing guru. This is about coming home to yourself. Your body has been waiting your entire life for you to pay attention to it this way. Not analyzing it, not judging it, not trying to optimize it, just being with it. Like sitting with an old friend who doesn't need you to say anything clever or profound. The ancient masters had a saying, the best practice is like water. Water doesn't force itself anywhere. It just flows where it can flow. And over time, it carves the Grand Canyon. 10 minutes a day. Not because you have to, but because you get to. Not to fix yourself, but to remember yourself. What would change in your life if for just 10 minutes a day, you had nothing to prove and nowhere to go? Chapter 5. Microcosmic Orbit Technique. Here's something profound. Your body is designed to be a flowing river, not a dam. But somewhere along the way, we'd learned to hold everything, our breath, our emotions, our energy, in tight little compartments. We've turned ourselves into human filing cabinets instead of the fluid, dynamic beings we were meant to be. I want to share something with you that might sound strange at first, but stay with me. What if I told you there's an ancient practice that treats your body like a complete circuit, not just a collection of separate parts, but one unified energy system? And what if mastering this circuit could change everything about how you feel, think, and show up in the world? The Taoists called it the microcosmic orbit, but I prefer to think of it as your body's internal highway system. Right now, that highway probably has traffic jams, roadblocks, and detours everywhere. But what if you could clear those pathways and let energy flow the way it's supposed to? Picture this. You know how, when you're really stressed, you feel it everywhere? Your neck gets tight, your stomach churns, your mind races, even your sleep gets disrupted. That's because when one part of your system gets blocked, it affects everything else. But the flip side is also true. When energy flows freely, everything works better. Now, here's where this gets fascinating. Modern medicine is finally catching up to what these ancient masters knew. Your body is one interconnected network. Your gut health affects your brain function. Your posture influences your mood. Your breathing pattern determines your stress response. It's all connected. So let's talk about how to actually do this, and I'm going to make it as practical as possible. First, I want you to think about completing a circuit. You know how electricity needs a complete loop to flow. Your body works the same way. Start by touching your tongue gently to the roof of your mouth, right behind your front teeth. This isn't mystical. You're literally connecting the front and back channels of your body. It's like plugging in a cord to complete an electrical circuit. Now, Remember that warm, golden energy we've been building in your lower belly? We're going to take it on a journey. As you breathe in slowly, imagine that warmth beginning to rise up your spine, not forcing it, not rushing it, just gently guiding it upward, like you're tracing a line with your finger. Think of each vertebra as a stepping stone. The energy moves from your tailbone up through your lower back, that place that holds all your daily stress, through your middle back, where you carry the weight of responsibilities, up to your neck, where tension loves to hide, and finally to the crown of your head. But here's the key that most people miss. This isn't about visualizing some abstract energy. It's about actually feeling the warmth, the tingling, the gentle release of tension as your awareness moves up your spine. Your body wants to respond to your attention. You just have to give it permission. Then, as you exhale, let that energy flow down the front of your body like a gentle waterfall. Down through your forehead, past your throat, through your heart center, your solar plexus, and back home to your lower belly. What you're doing is creating what I call an internal circulation system. Instead of energy getting stuck in your head as anxiety, or trapped in your chest as tension, or stagnating in your belly as digestive issues, everything keeps flowing. But here's what nobody tells you about this practice. The real magic isn't in the technique itself. It's in the fact that for maybe the first time in years, you're actually paying loving attention to your own body. You're treating yourself like you matter, like you're worth taking care of. Most of us spend our lives trying to escape our bodies through distraction, through substances, through staying constantly busy. But this practice is about coming home. It's about remembering that your body isn't just a vehicle to carry your head around. It's your most intimate companion, your oldest friend, your wisest teacher. When you do this practice regularly, something shifts. Not just in how you feel physically, but in how you move through the world. You develop what I call energetic sovereignty, a deep, unshakable knowing that you have everything you need within you. The question isn't whether this will work for you. The question is, are you ready to stop being a stranger to your own body and start being its most trusted friend? Chapter 6: Benefits of Circulation. Let me ask you something personal. When was the last time you woke up in the morning and actually felt excited about the day ahead? Not because something special was happening, but just because you felt alive, really, truly alive. Most of us have forgotten what that feels like. We've gotten so used to operating at half capacity that we think being tired, anxious, and mentally foggy is just part of being an adult. We've normalized dysfunction and called it maturity. But here's what I've discovered, and it might challenge everything you believe about aging and energy. That bone-deep tiredness you carry, that constant background hum of anxiety, that feeling like you're always running on empty, none of that is inevitable. None of that is just how life is. What if I told you that right now, as we're talking, there are people in their 70s who have more vibrant energy than most 30-year-olds, people who sleep deeply, wake up refreshed, and move through their days with a kind of inner brightness that seems almost unfair? The difference isn't genetics. It isn't luck. It's circulation. Think about your house for a moment. What happens when the plumbing gets blocked? The whole system backs up. Water pressure drops. Things start to smell. Nothing works the way it should. Your body's energy system works exactly the same way. Right now, You probably have energy traffic jams everywhere. Your neck and shoulders are like a dam, holding back the flow from your head to your heart. Your chest is tight, restricting the connection between your heart and your gut. Your lower back is locked up, cutting off communication between your brain and your body's power center. But when you start practicing this circulation technique regularly, something miraculous begins to happen. It's like someone finally cleared all the roadblocks and opened up the highway. Here's what starts to change. And I want you to really imagine this. You begin sleeping the way you did as a child, that deep, restorative sleep where you wake up actually refreshed, instead of needing 3 cups of coffee to feel human. Your digestion improves because your nervous system finally stops being stuck in fight or flight mode. You know that bloated, uncomfortable feeling after meals? That starts disappearing because your body remembers how to actually process food instead of just surviving it. But the mental changes are even more profound. You know that constant chatter in your head? That voice that never shuts up, always worried about something, always planning or replaying or judging. It doesn't disappear, but it gets quieter, much quieter. And here's something nobody talks about. Your intuition comes back online. You know how sometimes you get a feeling about something, about a person, a situation, a decision, but you talk yourself out of it? When your energy is flowing properly, that inner knowing gets stronger and clearer. Your emotional reactions become less reactive and more responsive. Instead of being hijacked by anger or anxiety, you feel it, acknowledge it, and then choose how to respond. It's like having an emotional thermostat instead of being at the mercy of every emotional weather pattern that comes through. But perhaps the most beautiful change is this. You start to feel at home in your own skin again. That restless, uncomfortable feeling of never quite being settled. It transforms into a deep, abiding sense of inner peace. This isn't about becoming some Zen master or enlightened being. This is about reclaiming your birthright to feel good in your own body. This is about remembering what it feels like to be vibrantly, unapologetically alive. Chapter 7. Living the Practice. You know what's fascinating about most spiritual practices? They treat your daily life like it's the enemy, like you have to escape from your job, your relationships, your responsibilities to find peace. But what if I told you that's completely backwards? Here's what I've learned after years of studying how energy actually works in real life. The most powerful practice isn't what happens in your meditation cave at 5 a.m. It's what happens when your boss is yelling at you, when you're stuck in traffic, when your kids are having meltdowns, when life is being, well, life. Let me share something with you that might sound radical. What if instead of seeing your daily challenges as obstacles to your practice, you saw them as your practice? What if every stressful moment was actually an invitation to come back to your center? Think about this. You've been building this internal energy, this warm presence in your lower belly. But if it only exists when you're sitting quietly with your eyes closed, what good is it? It's like having a sports car that you only drive in your driveway. Here's where this gets really interesting. That centered feeling you've been cultivating, it wants to be lived. It wants to come with you into your meetings, your conversations, your daily challenges. It's not meant to be locked away until you have time to practice. But here's the thing. Nobody tells you about living from this centered place. It completely changes how other people respond to you. Have you ever been around someone who just felt solid? Not in an aggressive way, but in a calm, unshakable way? Like no matter what chaos was happening around them, they remained steady? That's what we're talking about here. It's not about becoming some mystical being floating above human experience. It's about becoming so grounded in your own energy that external circumstances can't knock you off balance. Now, let me give you some practical ways to bring this into your real life. Because theory without application is just interesting conversation. First, let's talk about joy. Not the forced Instagram worthy kind of joy, but the quiet, bubbling up from inside kind. You know those moments when you're doing something simple, maybe making coffee in the morning or walking to your car, and you suddenly feel this little spark of contentment for no particular reason. That's your energy recognizing itself. That's what happens when you're aligned with your own life force instead of fighting against it. The more you practice this breathing, this circulation, the more those moments of spontaneous joy start showing up. But here's the key: you have to give them permission. Most of us are so trained to be serious, so conditioned to believe that life is hard work and suffering, that when joy shows up naturally, we immediately get suspicious. What's wrong with me? Why do I feel good for no reason? Nothing's wrong with you. You're just remembering what it feels like to be alive. Now, about your body, and I want to say this gently but clearly. If you're doing this energy work while simultaneously destroying your body with terrible sleep, junk food, and chronic stress, you're like someone trying to fill a bucket with holes in the bottom. Your body isn't just the container for your spiritual practice. Your body is your spiritual practice. Every choice you make either supports your energy or depletes it. Every meal, every bedtime, every moment you choose to slouch or stand tall, it all matters. But here's where most people get this wrong. They turn self-care into another form of self-punishment, another way to judge themselves. I should eat better. I should sleep more. I should. What if instead you approached taking care of yourself like you were caring for someone you deeply loved? What if you ate nourishing food, not because you should, but because you genuinely wanted to feel good? What if you went to bed early, not as discipline, but as a gift to yourself? And here's the most important part. Throughout your day, no matter what you're doing, you can always come home to your breath. You can always return to that warm presence in your belly. Whether you're in a difficult conversation, stuck in traffic, or dealing with a crisis, you always have this refuge available to you. Most people spend their lives looking for external sources of strength, validation, and peace. But what if everything you need is already there, 3 fingers below your navel, waiting patiently for you to remember it's there? Chapter 8: Spiritual Insights. You know what's heartbreaking about modern spirituality? We've turned the most natural thing in the world, breathing, into another performance we need to perfect, another badge we need to earn, another way to prove we're spiritual enough. But let me share something with you that might completely flip your understanding of what this practice really is. What if I told you that right now, as you're listening to these words, you're already participating in the most sacred act possible? What if every breath you've ever taken has been a prayer you didn't know you were saying? Here's something that hit me like lightning when I first truly understood it. You didn't choose to start breathing when you were born. Something breathed you into existence, Something is breathing you right now, even when you sleep, even when you're unconscious. This mysterious force keeps flowing through you, keeping you alive. Think about that for a moment. What is this intelligence that knows exactly how to keep your heart beating, your blood flowing, your cells regenerating? You couldn't consciously manage all these processes if you tried. There's something infinitely wiser than your thinking mind that's been taking care of you since the day you were born. The ancient Taoists called this the breath of heaven and earth, not because they were being poetic, but because they recognized that we exist at the intersection of two great forces: the sky above, infinite and expansive, the earth below, solid and nurturing. And you're the bridge between them. But here's where most spiritual teachings get it wrong. They act like you have to earn this connection, like you have to purify yourself or achieve some special state to be worthy of the divine. What if I told you that's completely backwards? What if the very fact that you're breathing right now is proof that you're already holy? Every single breath is a love letter from the universe to you personally. Every inhale is life saying, I choose you. I want you here. You matter. How many love letters have you ignored today because you were too busy thinking you needed to be somewhere else, someone else, something more? Now, let me tell you something that no meditation teacher ever shared with me, something I discovered through years of actually living this practice. The real transformation doesn't happen during your formal practice time. It happens in those ordinary moments when life gets messy and you remember to breathe. It happens when your child is having a meltdown in the grocery store, and instead of losing your mind, you drop into your belly and find that calm center. It happens when you get triggered by your partner's comment. And instead of reacting from old wounds, you take that deep breath and respond from your wisdom. It happens when you're walking to your car after a difficult day, and suddenly, for no reason at all, you feel this wave of gratitude wash over you, not because anything external changed, but because you remembered how to receive the gift that's always being offered. You see, the ancient sages weren't trying to escape the human experience. They were trying to fully inhabit it. They understood that every emotion, every challenge, every moment of joy or sorrow is an opportunity to practice conscious breathing. They turned their entire lives into a walking meditation. But here's what I find most beautiful about this path. It doesn't make you more spiritual. It makes you more human, more present with your actual life instead of some fantasy version you think you should be living, more connected to the people around you instead of floating off in some enlightened bubble. Have you ever noticed how, when you're truly centered, really breathing consciously, other people feel it? They relax around you without knowing why. Children and animals are drawn to you. Tense situations somehow resolve more easily. That's not magic. That's what happens when one person in the room remembers how to be fully present. The dragon you've been awakening isn't some mystical creature you're trying to summon. It's your own life force that's been waiting patiently for you to pay attention to it. It's the fierce, tender love that keeps your heart beating. It's the creative power that heals your wounds and grows your dreams. And here's the most revolutionary truth of all. You don't have to go anywhere to find it. You don't have to climb any mountains, study with any gurus, or achieve any special states. You just have to be willing to receive what's already being given to you, breath by breath, moment by moment. This practice isn't about becoming someone else. It's about becoming so fully yourself that you remember you were never separate from the source of life in the first place. You are not a drop trying to return to the ocean. You are the ocean experiencing itself as a drop. So here's my invitation to you. Stop trying to get somewhere with your breathing. Stop trying to achieve some perfect state. Instead, let each breath be a homecoming. Let each inhale be a welcoming of life exactly as it is. Let each exhale be a releasing of everything that isn't truly you. The path of the dragon isn't about gaining power over life. It's about learning to dance so beautifully with life that the two of you become one movement, one breath, one expression of the infinite love that breathes us all into being. What would your life look like if you truly understood that you're not just a human having a spiritual experience, but the universe having a human experience? What would change if you realize that your breath is the most direct connection you have to the sacred, available to you right now, right here, in this very moment? The fire within you isn't something you need to create. It's something you need to stop covering up. And every conscious breath is you gently blowing on those embers, allowing your true nature to shine.